Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Silva Harapetian of silvaharapetian.com. Silva, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I'm super psyched to have you on, and what I wanted to do was just read a little bit more about Silva so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing. And Silva is a media consultant, business coach, author, and speaker. She has had a 20-year career as a television journalist on the front lines covering major stories for leading networks including NBC, ABC, CBS, and Fox. She is a television personality and media expert who was featured in online and print magazines, as well as television and radio shows, internationally and nationally, including NBC's Today Show, the Kathy Lee and Hoda and syndicated talk show, The Nate Berkus Show. Silva helps entrepreneurs and executives discover and craft their messages and stories so that they can create deeper connections with their clients, engage with them long-term, and of course, increase sales. Silva, are you ready to speak to the I Am CEO community?
I am ready.
Awesome. Let's do it. So the first question I had was to hear a little bit more about what I call your CEO story and what led you to start your business.
I have been in the media world and the media industry on various different capacities for almost 20 years. I started as an intern at KCBS in Los Angeles and worked my way up the ranks in different cities and different markets and different stations, doing everything from bringing coffee to the executives to eventually producing and becoming a radio reporter, and then I became a television reporter, and I moved all over the country for the next opportunity in the next job. My dream was to always be a credible, reputable journalist that told stories that mattered on a platform that was big enough that made an impact. That was my career goal, and it wasn't an easy goal to set. It may sound like it's something that's doable for anyone who's living in the land of dreams, right, in America. But for me, it was a very different path because I was born in Iran. I'm Armenian. We fled the country because we were Christian Armenians. So we fled religious and political persecution, escaped to Germany, lived in Germany for 2 years, learned the language in Germany when I was 14 years old, so already through my teenage years, and then got to the United States when I was 16 years old. So in high school at 16, learning English, learning everything about the culture, learning about just the simple things that sometimes we take for granted, like what is student government, like what is community service, what are extracurricular activities and why do they matter, what is an AP class versus a regular class, all of this stuff I had to figure out, and I had to learn on my own, and I had to do it very quickly because I didn't have time. I was already a sophomore in high school, and one of the things that I took very personally was my parents sacrificed and left everything they worked for and everything they had in another country to give us a better opportunity and better life. And I felt indebted to them to be successful, and indebted to them to show them that their sacrifice meant something. So for me, I took education very seriously. I took the power of my voice very seriously. Also, the desire to be a journalist came from the fact that I grew up in Iran, where women have no voice, they're considered property, everything is censored. So to be in a country where you have all of these opportunities at your fingertips, I just felt like I owed it to them and every other parent that sacrifices and makes that kind of change to maximize every opportunity that came my way. So essentially, I graduated using textbooks and tutors and dictionaries, and figured out how to go to college, and didn't get to the college that I really wanted to because my SAT scores were terrible, and then eventually figured out how to work at nights and go to school in community college, eventually transferred and got a degree, again, with a lot of help and a lot of hard work. And once I did an internship at KCBS, I realized I really loved the power and the impact of storytelling. When done correctly, the everlasting shift that it creates on on a human being, and whether it's a breaking news story or a political story or a human interest story, if it's done correctly. Our job as journalists is community service, and to educate, to inform, and deliver facts. And that was so incredibly powerful to me. It was one big problem. I wanted to be a television journalist, and I kind of sounded like this because, like I was a foreigner, and I certainly didn't look like this. I looked like a foreigner, like I started making videotapes, which is really a resume tape for anyone who wants to be a journalist. And I started sending it out to people, to executives and TV executives. And I have a pile of rejection letters that I still keep as a reminder. But when I wouldn't get anybody to respond, I was like, okay, what is wrong with this tape? Why isn't anybody hiring me? I'm willing to go anywhere and do anything. Finally, somebody on the phone said, you kind of sound foreign. To want to be a television reporter, that's kind of a little, like, lacks a little common sense. And I was like, what do you mean I sound foreign? I sound fine. So in realizing that, like, it was a journey, right? So I learned how to refine my accent. I learned how to refine my look in order to sort of not fit in and not be the cookie cutter, but to be refined enough that it would not be distracting, and that I would be able to pursue the career I wanted to. So in doing so, and working all over the country for 20 years, I also realized that there was a lot of really powerful stories that were not getting coverage in the traditional media landscape. And that's for various different reasons. Sometimes there isn't enough time. Sometimes other things come into play that are more important. Sometimes, so there was a lot of other elements to why, a lot of other important stories sort of fall through the cracks. But one of the things I noticed is that there were really great people in the community doing some really awesome things and impactful things, and they just weren't getting coverage. And the reason is because, one, they weren't trying, and two, when they were trying, they weren't doing it correctly. So their efforts just kind of went unnoticed. And then when an organization or a company tries multiple times and they get nothing, they stop. And I saw a need in that market to use the skills from the insider perspective of being in the media and knowing what they look for and understanding how it all works, and bridging that knowledge gap between my expertise and my knowledge of what I know from the inside, and bring it to the people that want that kind of coverage, that deserve that kind of coverage, that deserve to be part of the conversation. So that's where my business was born. And mostly I do speaking opportunities where I teach large audiences how to do that, the power of the media, the power of storytelling, how to look at their business, how to look at their organization in order for them to be able to think the way the media thinks, so that they can position themselves to have a better chance of being part of the conversation and promoting what they do and the impact that they make. So that's how my business was born, and that's how I became the CEO of my company.
That is awesome. And, I appreciate you for sharing that with us, and your story and your journey. And the fact that the biggest part that I love about it is that, you talked about your journey, you talked about everything you did, and you weren't an overnight success, as I think that's an kind of overused phrase, and people think that things just happen overnight. But a lot of times, like you mentioned, like I imagine some of your clients that you work with, they get those rejection letters and they don't realize they have to maybe not necessarily work on the way that they talk or their accent or anything, but they have to work on certain things so that they can actually get into the big media publications that they want to get into. And you've been able to do that. And on one end, as a media expert, but also you're able to kind of help others do that.
Yeah. And essentially, there was a moment in my career, and, honestly, I talk about that's how I became a CEO, and this business has been evolving, right? I've had it for 11 years. So I've had a business on the side working on my business plan and the types of clients I want to work with and how I can best serve them for 11 years. And anyone who has a business knows that it's a living, breathing, dynamic thing, and it evolves in the services you provide and the clients you work with. And so, and until you get really clear on what it is that where your zone of genius is and how you can really maximize that for clients and the types of clients that are going to see the most amount of value in working with you, right? So there's, at least this is how I work. I don't see a point in working with a client and collecting their money and them not seeing any kind of improvement or any kind of result. So my goal here was to kind of explain to people how the media works from the inside, because when you know how the system works, then you know how to position yourself to fit in within the system. And sometimes it's not that what you have isn't good enough, and it's not that what you're doing isn't right. Sometimes it's just timing. Sometimes it's just the right person. Sometimes it's just, one sentence that you write on the bottom of the news release that needs to be on top of the news release. That it's sometimes it's your image, what someone like me as a journalist who has to put their reputation on the line in order to give you coverage. I have to do my homework. So it's about credibility. It's about positioning. It's about, do you do what you say you're going to do? Are you who you really say you are? So all of those things, come into play, and being able to bring that knowledge to entrepreneurs and executives and give them a completely different perspective on, listen, you're not getting what you're looking for, and not just in the media, but maybe even in your marketing, and maybe even in your business and the kind of clients you want, because your messaging is off or your presentation is off, and these are the things that you're not looking at or seeing. And 90% of really publicity and getting in front of people and being in front of mass audiences is being ready. The last 1% is the launch, right? It's like, launching a rocket. You work and work and work and work and you get ready. And then the launch is that 1 minute. It's that booking and that opportunity. But that getting ready part is an extensive process. And sometimes with clients, it's one session. Sometimes it's 5 sessions. Sometimes it's a social media audit. Sometimes it's revamping things. So different people need different things, but I just think it's important to help people who have impactful messages to position themselves in the most optimum way in order for them to get in front of as many people as possible, and not just the media, but as many people as possible. And if I can do that, then I've
Absolutely, absolutely. And you've definitely been able to do that for yourself, and you're doing it for clients as well too. So it's definitely, great to hear how you've been able to help clients and some of the things that you feel like set you apart. Now, I was going to ask you for your secret sauce. You might have already touched on that. Do you feel like that's what sets you apart and makes you unique?
My secret sauce.
Mm-hmm.
My secret sauce is my life and my history, right? So everything that I've learned is a skill from the media perspective. Everything I've done is a skill from the media perspective. So anyone who's worked in media can probably give you some or all of the insider tools that you need, or perspective to get to where you want to go. But not everybody can see the story from the perspective I can see it. And that's because of my life, of my background, of where I come from. It's the things that I look for. It's the moments I look for. To me, human connection is incredibly important. I think, marketing is very much like music. If you do it right, it doesn't matter what language it is and where in the world it's played, it creates connection, right? So if you can figure out a way to develop a message and develop a story around your business and your product and your service that resonates in a human way, that is the most powerful marketing you will ever do. It's not about the features of your product. It's not about the benefits of your service. It's not about your credibility. It's about that human connection. And I am able to find that nugget in everything and everyone, because I did it for 20 years in television. I've covered every type of story and every type of business and every type of setting. I have a knack for that. Part of it is skill, part of it is instinct, part of it is just, human compassion and being who I am. So, that's the secret sauce. And I think if anyone is listening, is any kind of powerful takeaway, is that, if you're looking to market your business or yourself or your brand, if your marketing doesn't have a heartbeat, if it doesn't have the human element, that's probably where you're failing. That's probably where your attention should be. And if you can't figure out where that is, find me or find someone like me who can point out where it is. Because I think too many people try to study too many things online and implement what's online that's worked for other people, and they assume that it's just going to work for them, when I'm here to tell you that the only thing that works is human connection. And the only thing that works is appealing to the human condition. I mean, look at the big name brands. Nike, they don't talk about their shoes or their features. They talk about an Olympian achieving a dream, right? That's a human experience. Look at Apple. What do they do? They don't talk about all the features of the iPhone or the Apple Watch. They talk about how human connections are made based using their devices. So when you think about creating messaging and marketing and stories and content around what you're doing, ask yourself, is this a human experience? Because essentially your buyers aren't just behind a computer clicking yes. They're humans buying, even if it's in the digital world. They're not computers.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I definitely echo that and agree with that. There is no kind of replacement, no matter what language you speak or what language you don't speak. That human connection, that emotional connection is something that definitely pushes people. And if you can hit that nerve and touch and connect with somebody on that level, then you can definitely do anything that you want to do. So I appreciate that. And I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And this might be an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but it's something that makes you more effective and efficient.
Yes. And it is something that I continue to work on, because as CEOs, as business owners and entrepreneurs, we are really terrible at this because there's just not enough hours in a day, right? But my hack is self-care and taking really preserving time in a day, and committing to it. Doing something that is important to you, that you love, that feeds your soul, that feeds your creativity, that feeds you. For different types of people, it's different things. For some people, it's yoga. For some people, it's meditation. Some people work out. Some people have a morning ritual. Some people like to be, organized. And some people, whatever it is, whatever feeds your soul, whatever makes you happy, whatever you're excited about doing, then that's the thing you should commit to at least an hour, maybe even more in a day, maybe twice a day. Because I think in order to operate on a high level and be effective and efficient, you really have to be your optimum self. And in order to be your optimum self, you really do have to take care of yourself. And I'm preaching this, but it's a work in progress, because for me, I can sit and work for hours on end, to turn the computer off and turn my brain off to go for a walk or to do something I love, which is maybe go to a boxing class or take a walk at the beach, is really difficult, but you have to do it and you have to be consistent. That's my hack. And I recommend you try it if you're in a place where you're surrounded with negativity, or you're feeling like you quit a job and you became an entrepreneur, but you feel like you're on a hamster wheel again. And, if you're in that space of anxiety, you need to force yourself to stop and implement that ritual on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I would definitely echo that. And I too am working on that as well, because I too would be on the computer with you for hours. So I completely understand exactly what you mean. So it's important to kind of dedicate time to that and make sure that you stick to it, which is, like I say, always putting on your own oxygen mask and making sure you keep it on.
Absolutely.
And now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. And this is a word of wisdom or piece of advice, or if you can hop into a time machine, what would you tell your younger business self?
I would say trust yourself and be yourself. Um, and this is through my own life and experience in working in the media for 20 years. You're under a microscope. I mean, on a daily basis. Not, I mean, imagine some people, work on a project and they, stand in front of a group and make a presentation maybe once every 2 weeks, once a month, maybe never. As a journalist, as a television journalist, I was in front of a camera, whether I felt like it or not, whether I was sick or not, whether I had a bad day or not, whether I had bad hair day or not, whether I was feeling like, no matter what, you have to show up and you have to perform. There is no other option. So being able to flip that switch on and off was definitely something I had to learn. But in the process, there's a lot of people who have a lot to say about who you are, what you look like, what you sound like, and what you didn't do right, constantly being judged and constantly being scrutinized, right? So that leads to you second guessing yourself. That leads to you second guessing your abilities and who you are. And that's very true in entrepreneurship as well, because when you start something of your own, you are following your own vision. You're following what's in your own head and you're following your own instinct, and other people don't have access to that. So other people have a lot to say about it. And we as humans, we're vulnerable, right? Like we're human. So something is going to penetrate, whether it's your best friend or your mom or your dad or your partner or just a stranger. Some things are going to sting and some things are going to get under your skin. I would say I wish I had been more of myself, and I wish I hadn't watered myself down, and I wish I hadn't second guessed myself in the process that I was in. And I'm glad that I did, because I'm here. So I don't regret any of that. But if I had to give anyone any advice, I'd say believe in what you believe in, trust in yourself and trust your instinct, and follow yourself. Be you, because there is no one else but you. And it's gotten you this far, it's going to get you further. And the more I work on being more of myself, the more abundant things become, the more I attract the people that I want to work with. And I know this sounds woo-woo for a lot of people, but it's true. The more of you are, the more you're able to share your gift, and the more you're able to share your skills, the more you're able to articulate what they are. So just get comfortable in your own skin. It's hard to do, but do whatever you have to do, set whatever environment you have to set for yourself, get whatever coach you need to get to, do whatever mind trick you have to do in order for you to be full of yourself, and not in a negative way, but just be you. Be you.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and definitely be you, because what they say, everybody else is taken and
Yeah.
you're not taken. So you have to be yourself in order to kind of have that light shine, and for you to show what you're put here on this earth, I believe, at least to do. So I appreciate you for doing that, and appreciate you for sharing that with us as well. And now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Sylvia, I wanted to ask you, what does being a CEO mean to you?
It means being, it means a lot of things to me, but for me, it means living with purpose. And you have to, I believe that you have to be your own leader, right? Be your own boss, in a sense where you have to make sure you put on your oxygen mask. You have to make sure that you are yourself, and that you are fully and wholeheartedly present and aligned and purpose driven. And in order for you to make the impact that you want to make, and for those of you who are in business, we know we can't have a business without making money, for you to be able to make the kind of money you want to make. For me, for as long as I stay on purpose, then I am in my role. The moment I get off that path or get distracted from that path, that's when things become more complicated. So for me, being a CEO is really being on purpose and leading by example.
Absolutely. I love that definition and that reminder, and everything that you said is like right in alignment. So that's the part that I love the most. So Silva, I truly appreciate you for taking some time out. What I want to do is pass you the mic just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and our listeners know. And then of course, how best they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to talk about is reinvention, right? So we didn't really touch on this, but anyone who's interested, you can check out my YouTube page. You can check out my website. I have reinvented myself multiple times in my life, in my career, and uncertainty and chaos are my best friend, right? Because that's what I grew up in. That's what I know. That's where I'm most comfortable. It's probably the reason I chose news and media and broadcast, because I thrived in that chaotic environment, right? But and while that was my goal, and I thought that was my purpose, there came a time where I felt like my purpose was greater than what I was doing. So that's when I really invested in my business and grew the business. And last March, I decided that I wanted to leave the broadcast world. So I jumped. I quit my job as a television reporter in Miami, and I decided to invest fully and jump fully into my business and be a full-time entrepreneur. And being the storyteller that I am, I created documentary. There are docu-series, they're short 10-minute pieces about the journey of reinvention, about the journey of going from being a journalist, having a full-time job, to becoming a full-time entrepreneur, and all of the obstacles that we see. Because I think what we see online a lot of times on social media is kind of like the overnight success, right? We see the final result. And sometimes people talk about the process that happened that got them to this point. But I found myself in a position to capture all of that in real time and talk about how shit hits the fan sometimes. Can I cuss? I forgot to ask you.
Absolutely. Cuss in the real world, we can cuss here.
And how sometimes believing in something, it really leads to some great opportunity that you didn't even think about. Sometimes partnering with someone leads to the horrible idea. Like I wanted to capture all of that in real time and kind of tell people that it's okay. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel like you don't know what you're doing. It's okay, even though you might be making, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures. Every single entrepreneur who's been successful will tell you they figured it out in the process. And I wanted to capture that journey. So my docuseries is on my YouTube page. I would love for you guys to watch it. Leave me a comment, subscribe, give me some love, share it with someone if it resonates with you. This is totally strings attached. I'm not selling anything. I'm not asking for anything. This was my own contribution to the community of entrepreneurs and people who find themselves at a fork in a road. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're at a fork in a road with your family and you don't know if you want to quit a job, you don't know if you want to get a divorce, you don't know, this speaks to everyone because it's about the human journey and human experience. I would love to get some love there. You can follow me on social media, Silva Harapetian, on all of the platforms. My website has a lot of information, and I give away a lot of content. I do free consulting for clients if you want to for 20 minutes. So if you think that you might need some help, no strings attached, send me an email, give me a call. I'm here to serve. And thank you. Thank you for this platform. This has been really amazing.
Yes, this has been awesome. And I think you provided a tremendous amount of value. So I truly appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you're doing and being transparent and, telling your story and helping others to tell their story as well, too. And we'll have all those links in the show notes just so that anybody can follow up with you.